Welcome to Healing the Spirit, a space where we awaken our creativity, deepen our connections, and remember who we are through the lens of astrology, archetypes, and art making. I'm your host, Jonathan Coe. Hello everyone, welcome to March. In this episode, I'll share some clairvoyant images and messages that came through when I tuned in to the spirit of March 2025, and then we'll contemplate these messages together with the intention to anchor our spirit, our deep knowing into our embodied experiences as people walking planet Earth. For context, let's first talk about the astrology of March 2025 that really serves as the backdrop of what we're about to get into. This month, we have both Venus and Mercury going retrograde in Aries and Pisces. We have eclipses along the Pisces-Virgo axis, and we also have Neptune moving into Aries after having been in Pisces for the longest time. So off the bat, we know that Pisces and Aries themes will be present. Pisces is the realm of dreams, of imagination, of interconnectedness. Pisces is the quantum reality. Meanwhile, Aries is about taking action, individual will. It's about charging forward even when we don't have all the information. Learning as we go. Aries is about new beginnings. The Piscean attitude is there's no separation in reality. Everything and everyone is connected on some level. Whereas the Aries attitude is this is who I am, this is what I want, and sometimes I'm going to discover it by acting first, discovering myself in the momentum of action rather than through contemplation or dreaming. So the astrology of March 2025 points to this back and forth between the Aries attempt to sprout out from the grounds, to start new beginnings, and the Piscean impulse to stay in the cyclical nature of reality, right? The attempt to go back into the collective ocean, the collective consciousness, to go back into the womb. There's a real hot and cold, perhaps rather chaotic energy of March 2025. The outcomes that we wish to see for things that we've been belaboring for a long time might have a hard time coming into fruition. And conversely, the things that we never expected to happen might show up spontaneously on our doorstep. So at its best, this kind of astrology can lead to seemingly illogical breakthroughs. It can lead to events that feel like divine intervention. And at its worst, it can be frustrating. It's like pulling teeth. It completely throws the wrench into everybody's plan. It's like that old saying, what does it say? Man plans and God laughs. That's the vibe that I'm feeling for March, astrologically. Now, that being said, when I tuned in for some messages to anchor those of us gathering in this space, the messages that I received was telling a different story. And to me, it feels perspective expanding. To me, it feels helpful. So I received quite a few for this one, so let's go through them. The first image was this tree with deep strong, stable roots. Behind a tree, there was the scene of a storm. There were lightning strikes. There was the sound of thunder clapping, and the rain was pouring really hard. Along with the image, I also heard a tree with strong roots know how to receive the influx of water, to take some of that water and to turn it into nutrients, to release the water back into the earth, and to allow other trees to also partake in the experience of receiving water through the roots, which are interconnected. So let's unpack this and contemplate this together. The things that transpire this month will show you precisely where your roots are strong and where your roots are not strong. The areas where the roots are solid will withstand the pressures, and the areas where your roots are not solid will falter. So, first and foremost, let's contemplate what are your roots? What grounds you? And also, what nourishes your roots? Our roots are points of connections with the earth. Our roots are also points of connections with other beings within the ecosystem. Not just human, but also the non-human and the more than human. When you think about the idea of being connected, of being rooted, of being centered in the wisdom of the earth, in the heart of the earth, how does it feel in your body? Are there sensations, memories, feelings that come up? Are there people, activities, places that connect you with the heart of the earth? Establishing our connection to planet Earth feels like an essential practice to me during this time. This skill is innate. Your body knows exactly how to do it without the intervention of your thinking mind. Rooting into earth, connecting with the greater web of life is your birthright. It's the truth of your being. If you find yourself efforting or trying hard to connect to the earth, it's very likely that you're grasping on to a mental image of what it means to be grounded. The invitation here is to let yourself off the hook when it comes to your mental images and expectations. The opportunity here is to give your body and give your energy the chance to make this connection naturally. Sometimes being grounded feels stable, quiet, and relaxed, and other times being grounded feels active, feels in flow, dynamic, in movement. Sometimes what you need to do to ground is to lie on the floor, maybe turning off all the lights, turning off all other input, sonic or sensorial, and let yourself lie there in the dark for a few minutes. Other times, what you need is to go for a run, to make some art, to do your groceries, to pace around your neighborhood. Release yourself from the rigid definitions of what it means to be grounded. Within each moment, your body knows exactly how to ground. All you have to do is to let your body show you how to get there. And return to this feeling of groundedness often. Return to this feeling when the experience of being alive feels challenging. Resource yourself by remembering that a tree doesn't need to effort in order to receive nutrients or nourishment from its roots. The more we surrender the struggle, the more we'll be able to receive. I would also invite you to practice remembering to get grounded before interacting with other people. Consider this. Given the energetic intensity of the month, there may be a need to practice getting grounded, especially when you're connecting with someone in a casual setting. In my mind, when I think about showing up in a casual way, I often feel or hold this preconceived notion that I don't need to prepare. Within the backdrop of the planetary intensity of March 2025 and how that will inevitably impact the energies of other humans and other beings, consider the possibility that in order to truly relax and to actually allow the flow that allows the sense of casualness, you may need to bring a bit more consciousness. You may need to bring a bit more groundedness into every interaction. So this is a great moment to notice where do your reactionary patterns come up? When you catch yourself reacting to situations rather than really responding from the place of your truth, there's an invitation to slow down and to give yourself a time out. Oftentimes, reacting is not coming from a personal failing. Something I've learned in my path is when I am reactive, it's not because I'm a bad person. It's not because I haven't taken the time to cultivate groundedness or connection to my innate truth. But rather, it's because something is insufficient in the setup of my environment. In other words, perhaps when you're feeling reactive or when you are noticing a reaction coming out of you and it feels out of control, perhaps it's the environment, it's the rules of engagement that needs to be tweaked a little bit. Let me give a real and tangible example here. When we are sitting across from another person and they said something that makes us feel some type of way that feels intense. Maybe we feel anger arising. Maybe we feel like they're accusing us of something. Maybe we feel this intense wave of grief coming up and we don't know exactly what to do with that wave of grief. The truth is, given enough time and given enough space, our systems know how to deal with it. Our systems know how to alchemize these feelings. But if we move too fast, if someone says something and it brings out a reaction within us, and then we make an assumption from the uncomfortable experience of that reaction, if we make an assumption about where this person is coming from or what their intentions are, then we start a process that is very combustible relationally, right? Very quickly, this interaction can turn into a hall of mirrors where both parties are not fully seeing and witnessing and making the effort to understand one another, but rather speaking from a place of, I think this is what you mean, therefore I'm going to respond in the way that I think you would want me to respond, right? So when we look at an example like this, chances are this can go a very different direction if we just take a little bit of time to slow down. Something I wish we would normalize in interactions with other people is to explicitly let them know when we need the conversation or the interaction to slow down. When our systems need to digest the information. Or when the other person is going faster than we can keep up with, and we're noticing our systems getting overwhelmed. You're allowed to say, I'm noticing my system is getting quite activated. I want to make sure that we're on the same page here. Can we take a moment to breathe together and let ourselves sync up? Can we take a moment to let our energies get back into the same rhythm with one another in ways that feel mutually comfortable for us? See, this is very simple, right? It's actually really not that hard or that revolutionary to make our request for slowing down known to the other person. And yet, a lot of our conditioning tells us that this is not okay. If you need to slow down, you are maybe not intelligent enough, or you're not paying enough attention, right? There's a lot of stories attached to slowness that this month we're being invited to investigate. We're being invited to question, especially with Mercury and Venus going retrograde. Tending to your own energetic body and your own nervous system is one of the most significant acts of care that you can actively take. And when you do this with other people, in front of other people, you're really taking the lead and creating significant, meaningful change on a deep level. One possible story that can come up with intense energetic moments is that we are powerless, that we have no agency. And on some level, that can be true. That can certainly be true on a larger collective level. And at the same time, perhaps there's more that is available to us if we deepen into our everyday experiences. If we deepen into every interaction we have with another person, every interaction we have with the world around us, every interaction we have with ourselves. One last point that I want to make about this image of the tree is something we know about trees is that they are collaborative beings. The roots of trees form a network of kin that can send messages and that can send resources. In other words, the roots of trees are holding hands underground. Similarly, in our lives, we can allow one area that's doing well to support another area that's having a little bit of challenge. They can feel like completely separate areas of life, but chances are they are not. And as we relax our mental rigidity around how separate they are or how different they are, we'll likely start to see the connection revealing itself to us. And likewise, we can also support others when we are feeling resourced. And we can remember to ask for support from others when we're feeling depleted and confused. The second image that I received was breath coming out of the human bodies. We're only able to see our breath when it's cold outside, when there is contrast in our inner temperature and our outer temperature. The cold air blowing around us is what allows us to see our warm breath with naked eyes. Here's my reflection on that image. On a literal level, it's an invitation to connect with the breath. Connecting with our breath is one of the oldest spiritual and embodiment portals in the history of humans. And as we move through the intensity, externally or internally, there's an invitation here to simply connect with the breath. The breath can be the tool that roots us into our present moment experience. In a few days, I'll be sharing a short breathing practice that I believe will be helpful for Pisces season and beyond. So stay tuned and use that for your own practice if that feels resonant. Come back to it over and over again if you would like. On a deeper, more philosophical level, the theme of contrast is present during the month of March. This idea that we're only able to see our breath when there's a contrast between the inner and outer temperature, to me, reminds us that our systems are primed to seek safety. And sometimes our systems confuse safety and stability. Not everything that is stable is actually safe. Not everything that is stable is actually safe. Change is not inherently dangerous, but our thinking minds don't like sudden shifts or surprises because we've learned to source safety energetically from that sameness. The truth is, contrast is how we learn in nature. We don't fully understand light unless we experience the dark. We don't fully understand what it means to be connected unless we experience separation. We don't fully understand peaks without valleys. The nature of our experiences of reality is that it's always contextual. And because we are primed to seek safety, we develop a negativity bias. What struck me when I received this image was it reminded me that sometimes that contrast is what brings clarity. The experience we're having might feel difficult, might feel challenging. We may not fully enjoy it. But that experience of not enjoying it is also pointing to the fact that we are alive. It's a sign of life to be uncomfortable. It's a sign of life to experience difficult emotions, to experience painful sensations, to experience challenging circumstances. That's not to glorify the experiences or to idealize them in some shape or form. But it is a reminder that there's always an opportunity to recenter and to remember that being alive is a gift. That being alive is something that our spirit and our soul have chosen for this lifetime. The third message I received was clairaudient. And so let me read you the words. Quietness is essential. For each being to come into their own personal resonance, they need to take some time and space away from others. Maintaining healthy distance from the experiences and expressions of others is necessary for maintaining the health of the ecosystem. I also heard the following, which at first didn't feel totally related, but the more I sat with it, the more I see the connections. I heard it is important to honor that process is life itself. Process is life itself. Nature moves in processes. Processes take time and energy. All living things move through cycles. When the human body is tired, it needs to rest. The act of resting allows the body to rejuvenate. From the place of rejuvenation, the body will naturally want to wake up. In order to properly wake up, the body needs to move. The energy of cycles is what creates life in the first place. Cycles create life forms. Cycles ensure that life continues. Every single movement, down to the tiniest twitch, means that the cycle is still happening. As long as the cycle is there, life is there. As long as there is life, there will be cycles. As long as there are cycles, there will be change. So this one is really meaty. And as I'm reading that back to you, perhaps we'll continue unraveling this throughout the month. What's coming up for me as I reflect on this message is that there is a social story, there is a social assumption that when someone or something is pulling away, something is wrong. The message that quietness is essential and that coming into our own frequency requires space and time away from other beings. To me, this isn't about alienating yourself. This isn't about creating kind of a forced separation, which sometimes it's absolutely necessary. But rather, this is a reminder that everything ebbs and flows. Just like the ocean tide, everything ebbs and flows. And in human relationships specifically, which tend to be the area that I find most fascinating personally, we make up stories when we sense distance. But distance can be healthy. Distance and space and time can be essential components to maintaining health. And what I think this message is trying to point at when it says maintaining the health of the ecosystem is we are all here to play different roles. We are not the same, and there's a reason for that lack of sameness. And that reason is that we are here to play different roles that keep the web weaving, so to speak. Without the worm, there wouldn't be roosters. Without roosters, there wouldn't be a snake that eats the rooster. Without snakes, there wouldn't be eagles that eat the snake, right? And we make up all kinds of stories about this. But nature, as our teacher, teaches us that we are dependent on one another, even when it can look like consumption. It can look like competition. But perhaps competition is not a concept from nature. Maybe competition is a man-made concept. That's something that we can feel into, if that feels true, even for us. The reminder that processes take time and energy, and that processes constitute life itself, to me, this is quite profound. In the past year, in my own path, I've noticed and sat with all these different moments and instances where I resist my own process, where I am asked to be quiet and all I want to do is say something, even when, if I really slow down, there's actually nothing to say. This is part of being alive, right? We resist the process that nature is gifting us. And the reminder here is maybe there's nothing to resist. Maybe the resistance itself is even part of the cycle. We can detach from the dual story that this is the right thing to do and the wrong thing to do, right? All reactions have a place. Everything has a role. So this is a bit of a contrast, right? Or this is a different vantage point than what we were discussing earlier about rootedness. Rootedness reminds us that we always have agency to ground. Whereas this reminder about process reminds us that even our unrootedness, our lack of rootedness, plays a role in the grand design, in the grand mystery. Everything sorts itself out. We cannot grasp the whole system. We cannot grasp the whole process. Reality moves in patterns. Reality is guided by resonance. And so, as we feel a certain resonance with something or someone, we inevitably gets pulled into it. And as we feel a dissonance with something or someone, we naturally pull away. This is the ebb and tide of life. So, what does this mean? If you find that certain connections suddenly loses its juice, let it go. If you feel yourself constantly misunderstood by someone, perhaps you are simply taking different buses at the moment. You are on different paths. Perhaps there is nothing to fix. Perhaps there is nothing to discuss whatsoever. Perhaps the energy speaks for itself. Perhaps your only job is to notice where the energy is going and to trust it, to obey what you know on a deep level, what your intuition is telling you. As intellectual beings, as beings who have busy little minds making up all kinds of stories and theories all day, every day, it's easy to get lost in the sauce. It's easy to get lost in the narrative. The energy does not move in complex narratives. It is nuanced, it is subtle, but the energy has a certain level of clarity to it. Always. Energy comes with clarity. And so, how would it feel if you allow yourself to trust your own experience, perception, and sight with regards to the energy? How does it feel to create extra spaciousness as the external world is shifting, as the external world crumbles? Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. When something crumbles, something new emerges. What happens if you give yourself permission to take a step back and to see what is crumbling, what is emerging, to observe, to watch the process, and to trust that the process is life itself? That feels complete to me. Thank you for being here. I encourage you to return to this contemplation or to parts of it as you feel called throughout the month, as it feels supportive. And I look forward to seeing you again very soon. I'm sending you lots and lots of love, and I hope you take good care of yourself.